Good afternoon, everyone. Can everybody hear me just fine? All right, well, thanks for coming and being part of this important conversation. And thank you, Justin, for the great introduction. I hope I live up to it. I want to welcome our panelists. I'll introduce them in a minute, and I thank them for joining us here today. Just a little bit about the panel. So the whole idea of this is to have the conversation regarding where the industry is going. I think we all see the shift towards battery, and as I like to call it, it's less of a revolution, more of an evolution. And today you will experience that with the demos and stuff that we have set up here, where you could see there are tools that make sense that can be battery, and then there should be conversations on the rest of it. But definitely it's an evolving thing, and that goes with autonomous and new tech as well. So I'm very pleased to have a very robust panel today sharing their perspectives with us, and we'll get started. So we'll start with panel introductions, and I'll have them introduce themselves further in their organization, as well as a little bit about their electrifying journey, just a brief overview, because then we'll dive a little deeper into what they have done, the challenges they have done, and then look into the future. So, sounds good, everybody? And if we have some time, maybe some questions from the audience as well. So, today we have with us Nicholas Westwood. He's the manager of grounds. Go, Nick. With the National Capital Commission. We have Alison Downs, Director of Parks, Maintenance and Forestry Services with the City of Ottawa. Trevor Cullen, Managing Partner with Clean Star Commercial Outdoor Services in Ottawa. David Wildeboer, Founder and President of Wild Ridge Landscape, Inc. And Jessica Milligan from Strathmore, President of Strathmore. Thanks for joining us, Jessica. So, I welcome you all to the panel. We've had a brief chat before this, and I've had the privilege of learning some of their journey, and I would like that to be shared with you folks here today. Just so you know, this is not a theory session. This is all practical, field-tested conversations. And these are the real conversations we should be having whenever we're talking about adapting technologies or anything new. So without further ado, I would like to start the panel, and you guys pick which order you want to go, but introduce yourself further and kind of your organization as well as your electrification overview so far, and we'll dig deeper after that.
Thank you. So I'm Allison. I oversee the parks maintenance and forestry at the City of Ottawa, and we have been piloting electric equipment since approximately 2022. And just to give you some context, we maintain approximately 4,500 hectares of parkland across the city. In the summer, we have approximately 350 staff, and we deploy them in crews across approximately 12 yards and 6 satellite yards. And we've been piloting the landscape equipment, the battery-powered landscape equipment for the last couple of years with varying success. Our biggest success is in what we call our destination parks, where we have our on-site charging infrastructure.
Jess Milligan from Strathmore. We've been active in zero emission battery powered since 2011. We launched our first zero emissions team 2011, and we've gone up to 3 teams, back down to 1, and now pretty much every team has a component of battery powered equipment. Here in Ottawa, we maintain the Rideau Canal with all battery powered equipment.
My name is Nick Westwood. I'm the manager of the garden grounds and greenhouses for the official residents. I work for the NCC. Thank you very much. So I've been working with the NCC since 2016, and we've been using electric equipment since then. We started off just basic things, just with blowers, and we've kind of graduated from there. Pretty much all aspects of our hand equipment is all electric now. So at this point, we're 100% electric. We no longer use any gas-powered hand tools anymore. And we've graduated also to having using zero turns as well, so some ride-on equipment. This also follows along with some of our vehicles as well. So with our units that we get around, so just our buggies, our golf carts, as well as our trucks, vans, are also electric. We have big change with the NCC. Is we were the ones that put a ban on gas-powered equipment in 2023, and that ban that was imposed was for all NCC workers, but also for our contractors as well. So we kind of hold them to that, and that was kind of graduated into that. 2 years prior to that ban going on, we did inform our contractors that was the direction we were going in, and that coming to that date on the 23rd, that's where we're going to be. We're also trying to meet some other benchmarks as well. So by 2030, we want to have 80% of our motorized fleets being at zero emissions, and by the time we get to 2050, we want to be just carbon free.
My name is Dave Wildeboer, and I'm the owner of Wild Ridge Landscapes. And we do commercial and residential maintenance and design build, but the electrification conversation is primarily focused on our maintenance operations. In 2020, we made a concerted effort to embrace electric equipment, as we've started with one crew outfitting it entirely with electric, and then have since added across most of our crews components of electric equipment. And we continue to grow on that, and as technology develops, we continue to expand what we're willing to invest in.
My name is Trevor Cullen with Clintar, and we've been into electric equipment for probably 10 plus years, focused mostly on campus-style properties. So for us, that means properties that have infrastructure in place, and that we can manage those pieces of equipment on site with on-site crew. And so that's kind of been our journey, and we've gone through a number of different phases with that, different types of equipment and so on. We are now also, we have a very small fleet of electric trucks, and we're getting into electric robot mowing on a campus as well this coming season. So we're excited about that.
Great. Thank you all for starting us off. I think that was a good warm-up, don't you think? We got a good insight to start. Well, maybe you could dive into the deep end a little bit now and talk about challenges, because whenever you do something new, I think you guys would agree, there's always challenges. So our next discussion will revolve around challenges in adaptation, costs, infrastructure. I'll kind of leave it open because everybody's experience might be different, but we would want to know, or the audience out here would like to know, key takeaways. How did you guys tackle those challenges? What was your biggest challenge in your first year? Looking back, what would you have done differently? So that's what we'll focus on this part of the conversation. And let's see who wants to go first.
Well, I have the mic, so I guess I'll go first.
Go ahead, Trevor.
So I mean, yeah, a lot in there to unpack, but very quickly, I mean, I think as one of the earlier adopters, I think everybody can speak to this. It was a challenge to begin with. The equipment didn't last very long. You'd have maybe a 2-year lifespan at best. And it was just difficult, particularly on the batteries, to sort of maintain. Crew would get frustrated, and so on. And so the main reason, honestly, that we stuck with it at the beginning was because of a client. It was a requirement that we move in that direction, and so we did. we're happy that we did, and we're still privileged to work with the NCC now downtown, and also a requirement, but also very beneficial for our employees now with the equipment down there. One of the charging is an issue, particularly when you don't have a trailer to put one of these, cyber tanks in. And so our solution to that was to get a Ford Lightning. And we have in the front of the Ford Lightning, we set up a battery charging station in there, and it's on site. We can abide by the no idling bylaws for downtown, for the city of Ottawa. And we can also charge our batteries and keep the crews rolling. So that's been a positive win for us. If you have to buy a truck anyway, might look at how you can use that truck to effectively keep your fleet running.
So I'm very appreciative of the work that Clintar and Strathmore did, and lots of companies like them who were early adapters in this side of the industry, because the technology, even since 2020 to today, has just grown exponentially. Right. So for us, the challenges that you would have experienced early on, a lot of those had already been addressed or were beginning to be mitigated. And by the time we started exploring what it looked like for us, a lot of good technology was available to us. The running multiple crews with multiple units, the charging is probably one of your biggest challenges. And if you go into our shop, there are charging banks everywhere, stacked on top of some very inconvenient spaces, and we're trying our best to navigate that. But now with the technology, with the ability to charge a single tank and then use that tank in the field, we've invested in that, and we've just added a second one to our fleet, and that's a huge improvement to the way we can be on the job sites that are not campus driven, right? So we're not a campus driven service provider as a rule. So we are in and out of sites multiple times a day, or our routes are fairly compact. Right. So it was really important to us to how to navigate charging, and now we're very thankful the technology is catching up, and it is driving that for us. Other challenges for us have been just buy-in from staff. You have people that are incredibly resistant to touching this stuff. They've always used two-stroke engines, or they're familiar with a certain approach to doing maintenance. And the equipment, although now I think it's caught up to a lot of the more historic models of what a two-stroke engine or two-stroke model looked like, some of the early technology was not quite as conducive or as efficient for operating. But I'm very thankful for where the technology is going and what we're able to do with it as of today. And that's attributed a lot to the early adapters who went out and did all the hard work for us.
So just for some challenges we had, it's just like everybody said, for sure with charging, you have to get a little more organized with that. Fortunately for us, we have a new maintenance facility where we were able to plan for that. So it's just making sure we had a good charging area so we could have multiple chargers all in one location here. Instead of spread across your shop from one end to the other, we're able to localize everything in one spot. Easier to keep track of everything. And to make sure everything's getting charged, between breaks and lunch and at the end of the day. So there, you have to get a little creative to overcome some of those challenges there, but it's can all be done. Another big one for us too is just because it's a little more, these are electronic equipment. There's the electric stuff here. We're finding that how we maintain, how we clean all our products, we had to kind of adapt to that. So some of those there that we just had to kind of figure it out on our own, like by just making some mistakes. Just using water to wash some push mowers, hedge trimmers, cord trimmers, stuff like that. Water was getting into some of the motors, and we did have to replace some of those pieces of equipment. Some of them were quite costly to repair, so sometimes we just had to replace them altogether. So with that, we had to adapt as well. So we just at the end of the day, where we're just bringing everything to the wash bay and just putting water to it. Now we have to use air, brushes. So we just clean it in a different place, a different way. than we did before. So it's just having to adapt to how you do that. And then probably like for the main thing for staff getting on board, that's never really been an issue for us, for the NCC. That's kind of part of the culture of our team, culture of the people who want to work for the NCC. We're kind of very much into the forefront to be in the environment and to be environmental leaders. So most of my staff all prefer to be utilizing electric equipment over the gas power.
I agree with all those challenges. Our biggest one was setting up the charging. We don't have brand new buildings, so adapting the charging infrastructure, the electrical infrastructure of a 30, 40, 60-year-old building to be able to accommodate the charging requirements was a big unexpected cost for us when we started this project, and as we've done big retrofits. Other than that.
I don't have much to add at this point. Everybody's covered it. But for the City of Ottawa, it is electrifying our facilities and the cost of doing that. As I mentioned before, we have 11 or 12 yards across the city and some satellite yards, and they're varying age. And the cost to upfit those it could be substantial in some cases. The other thing is we have like 1,000 pieces of equipment approximately that need to be transitioned, as well as batteries that need to be purchased to use those pieces of equipment throughout the day. We are not largely campus-based either, and so our crews leave in the morning and leave with their tools and the batteries in the back of the truck. So cost is our biggest challenge at this point. But we believe that the technology is coming, and even the durability of the tools is starting to improve, and so it is definitely the way of the future.
That's great. While I have you with the mic there, Allison, could you share with us, I think the city did a whole pilot study on the electrification process, so there was a lot of deep dive. I'm just trying to make sure the mic doesn't cut off, so I apologize if I'm not facing you there. Maybe if you could touch on how the findings of your pilot were, what were some key takeaways regarding the electrification, because I understand you managed to, a certain percentage of the equipment were able to transition, but maybe if you could give us some takeaways from your study that will help us in regards to the challenges of electrifying.
Yeah, and we are still in the pilot phase, to be quite honest with you. We're going into our 4th year of piloting, and it really has to be slow and steady at the municipality because of the number of equipment that we have to transition, and transitioning all at once is a capital expense. And then because of the life cycle of the equipment, if we're transitioning every 4 years, it's a capital expense, and so we're trying to kind of spread that out on an annual basis and transition slowly. The other issue that we're seeing with our pilot is the life of the batteries and the requirement to the battery warranty and the requirement to change the battery. And once you make a decision on the brand that you're going to buy, the batteries are proprietary, and so they don't transfer easily from brand to brand. So we want to make sure we're transitioning the right equipment at the right time with the right product, and so that's why we're continuing to pilot. We are seeing positive things, like the trimmers work well. The pole saws that we've transitioned work well. We've transitioned some of our pruning saws in forestry, not our big chainsaw machine tools, but the smaller, some of the smaller tools. The blowers we're still having some issues with, especially in the spring and the fall, with our heavy-duty cleanup with respect to wet leaves and such. But things are going positively, and we're happy with the way our pilot results are progressing.
And if I may just kind of continue on that, sorry to hold you there, Allison. Is there any plans from the city to take this a step further? I know NCC mentioned, they did a write-out ban. Is that the trajectory we could expect, or are you guys taking a different approach? Because there's lots of conversations. City of Toronto just did a whole survey. I think Landscape Ontario was part of that, to look at the option of banning or otherwise. What is kind of the city's plan, maybe going forward in spite of these challenges?
So are you speaking about a potential bylaw banning the?
Yeah, or what? Since you guys did the pilot, was that just for your internal purposes, or is that something you may extend to contractors like the NCC did, or are you just looking to transition without a hard bylaw in place? Just want to see what might be in the pipeline for that.
So we're definitely looking to transition, like I said, on a slow and steady basis without the requirement of having a City of Ottawa ban. That's the actual bylaw group is not in my department, but I am aware that my partners are looking at reviewing that bylaw maybe next year. It's not in on this year's work plan. So we are not going to be dependent on what bylaw does with respect to our transition. We would still, it's the right thing to do from an environmental perspective, and I think we're on board with our partners at the NCC.
Great, thank you, Allison. Anybody else have anything we should touch on when it comes to challenges? I know a lot of was discussed already. Anything before we move on to maybe the opportunity side and the...
Yeah, just for a couple more challenges there. I mean, I know when we did have some breakdowns, just parts availability, especially on the early times here, a little tougher to get things in. There was the whole COVID thing too, where it was hard to get parts in for anything, but there were some challenges for some of the electric equipment, and that's something I think is going to change over time, and that'll improve. So I don't have any doubts with that. But it's also just having there's a difference when I've had some conversations with some of the distributors as well. So when you're getting electric equipment, there's kind of real two distinctions there, like kind of what the homeowner's using, and then the commercial stuff. So the commercial stuff will definitely have. I've been informed that will have more parts available for that. So knowing that that commercial equipment will be used, a lot more use, a lot more hours on that. So things are going to fail and break down, and they're going to need some replacement parts. So it's a good thing to know about when you are purchasing equipment and what you're going to be looking for. You need to be looking for absolutely the commercial grade stuff.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and the one other observation I had, and Allison hinted at it, was that once you make a commitment to a battery, a product line, you have to sort of figure out how to stay within that. And that hasn't been easy. And I think partly because the technology of some brands have moved in different directions. So currently, in a small company like ours, we have 3 different brands represented in our fleet. And that presents challenges in terms of where to align, where to commit, and commitment challenges are expensive.
So Dave, just to put you on the spot before you... go ahead.
Just one more on that one as well. Yeah, that is one of the big things there is when you definitely choose what company you're going with, you're gonna have to make that full commitment. So right now, when we first started in, there wasn't many different companies you could deal with. There was just only a few out there. Now that's changed drastically. So there's a lot of different players out there. So before you make that decision or make that full commitment to a certain brand, we really encourage anybody, you have to demo stuff. You have to get out there, try all the different products, try the different, if it's the right, products that's going to work for your team, for your needs, and getting your staff out there to try those products as well to see, get their feedback. They're the ones that are going to be using it all the time and see what works best for you.
So we mentioned the challenge, and we'll go on opportunities next. Have you guys figured out how to manage this problem, or is it still an ongoing thing where there's different brands, they have different things, we just have to be more diligent, like Nick said? There's no way around it, I guess, because in gas you could be agnostic and switch it up. And I think Allison had a point when I was chatting with her before the panel. It's that's one of the things that's making the city nervous, where they invest into one platform and then maybe future needs are not met. That seems to be the sentiment, right? All right, we'll leave it at that. So let's talk about the positive side a little bit then, I guess. Balance it out, because there are many positives as well. Like I said, you don't have to be against gas. You could be pro battery, because there are tools that will make more sense with the battery platform, and that's for your equipment fleet, and even maybe on the vehicle side. Some of the panelists here have switched their vehicles and they've seen benefits. So in terms of the opportunities and the future, what comes next, we'll spend some time discussing that. How do you see battery adaptation over the next, let's say, 5 years? I know things jump very fast in tech world, but let's see your opinion on that. Are there new technologies, things like autonomous mowers, better battery systems, charging infrastructures that is changing the game that you guys are kind of watching closely? And then maybe what advice would you give to companies or municipalities considering this transition in terms of, good for business, good for the environment? So who wants to start this one? You got the mic there, Nick.
All right. I guess as far as technology, where we're going in 5 years and all that, the one thing that really stands out for me or works best for me are the auto mowers. So I'm using those I've worked at 6 different properties. We have it on most of our properties. We started off with one auto mower in 2018, and now I have 10 of them. They've really helped out tremendously just with my whole operation, just saving on time with staff. Just being out there where I don't have to, you still have to monitor them, you still have to take care of them. There's still some upkeep, if there's storms, branches fall down, you still have to pick that up. Mowers can't be going over that. There is always, if there's things left out on properties, like, kids' toys, things like that, things can get hung up. There are some drawbacks, but for the most part, they do a fantastic job. They do a better job than I could do with my own staff. They're able to maintain a great height of cut all the time, so these properties and the lawn will always look just perfect. So that's the quality is outstanding. So that really helps out. I have first generational stuff, so a lot of with these wires in the ground, and that's working for us now. But the technology is continuing, and now it's all GPS. We're no longer having to use wires out there. And so most people have seen all the other type of units you have out there. There's larger stuff. They can do large sports fields and all that. And I see myself in the future here. Right now, we do a lot of stuff in-house, a lot of mowing, but we also use contractors. And I can see myself investing definitely in auto mowers, more robots, and I can cut back on those contracts there. You'll always need some people to do some trimming, some little detail work and all that, but for the main stuff, you could be using the auto mower. So I really see that is something that's going to continue, and I can see people adopting that more and more, especially for sports fields. That'll be huge for them.
I see some side-to-side contractors about.
Yeah, I'm like, thanks NCC, you just ruined our potential work here. So stop investing in electric, everyone. No, the opportunities are there, and I think we hinted at it earlier. The transformation of the technology within the last 3 years is like it's unbelievable, and I think part of it is because we've got multiple players in the field now, and we're not looking at one or two providers, and that's just going to drive unbelievable growth for us, which will give us great products to work with. And I think when we can give great products to our staff to work with, their enjoyment, their ability to do their jobs well, is going to have a huge impact on them as well. And I think there's absolutely important qualities to the noise reduction alone, in terms of the ability of staff to endure a day of 10 hours or so on a weed trimmer, for example, or extended fall cleanups. So when you start exploring what that does to the human side of working with this stuff, I think it's huge, and I'm super eager to see how we can grow with that. And I say that with some hesitancy about talking about bigger equipment. Our ability to provide say 5-acre lots with electric equipment and do that well. I'm not convinced we're there yet, as in terms of technology and in terms of our ability to invest in that type of infrastructure. But I'm very excited to see what robotics can do for our smaller properties, and even create a mobility option for a robot mower to do multiple sites.
Right.
And I think the technology is just going to be, driving that way, and we're invested already, so we're eager to see what we can do. What's our next step for that?
Yeah, I think for us, we're excited to this year get into automated mowing on a campus style, where we can, and the client is actually quite excited on a sustainability side. So for us, the opportunity arises to approach contracts and sales in a way that we can offer a 12-month, a year look at how to be more environmentally friendly. A lot of these larger corporations, let alone government, have sustainability committees, if not more than that, and they have budgets for sustainability as well. So I don't think the landscape and snow industry should shy away from trying to tap into that sustainability budget that a lot of these corporations or even retail spaces or whatever have. The one that we're looking at this year, they have a unique situation where they have a boardroom that comes right up onto a lawn space. And so every time we'd come and cut the grass, they seemed to have a meeting going on. They would come running out and tell us to stop and get lost. And so we're going to institute these automated robot mowers for them to solve their problem. And it also solves our problem because we're not wasting time showing up to cut grass and then having to leave or to go to another area and wait for 3 hours or what have you. So it kind of helps. So I'm excited in 5 years where that's going to go. I mean, we could have a fleet of these automated mowers doing a lot of our mowing, and have, as labor is always an issue, have dedicated labor to do the trimming and the detail work and focus on that. Maybe you can shrink your trailers. Maybe you can change what kind of gear you need. Maybe you can haul everything around with an electric truck rather than a diesel truck. There's a lot of opportunity that we can get to if we can cut out some of these things. Slope mowing is another thing, very dangerous. There's actually, we found out there's a bylaw about how steep you're allowed to mow, and it's not very much, just by the way, with a stand-on or ride-on mower. So, how do we solve that problem? And I think, instead of a, $40,000 handheld robot, maybe an automated mower will be able to solve those kinds of problems for us too. So there's a lot of opportunity.
For us, the biggest positive that we saw when we started converting to batteries almost 15 years ago now is the engagement that it gave us in the labor force. So we were attracting a different type of person, not necessarily somebody who wanted to be a landscaper, but somebody who wanted to be part of a mission of zero emission, environmental, sustainability. It was just a different profile that we were attracting. And now we've got people who have been landscapers for 10 or 15 years and who have never used two-stroke equipment. So that mentality has really shifted. And I think going back to what some of the others were saying, it creates a culture of pride in your company that you're ahead of the curve, that you're doing things because it's the right thing to do. So just from we're all in this tight labor market, and from a labor attraction, labor stickiness perspective, zero emission was a really good move for us in that sense.
And the only thing that I can add is I'm a strong believer that this is the future, and technology is always getting better. And I think the battery technology will improve, as will the durability of the equipment. So I'm very excited with respect to that. I am also very excited about automated lawnmowers, or the robot lawnmowers that my friends here have been speaking about, and hoping to try and see a way forward to piloting that at one of our sports fields. I know I've spoke to Jess about theft and our kind of paranoia of somebody's going to walk away with it. I think you gave me some good feedback that they're heavy and that they are have an alarm, and it's quite annoying. So, but I'm sure they will get better and better with the security system in that respect as well.
Great. I think the future is very promising by the sounds of it. Thank you all for sharing that, because that gives everybody a heads up on what you guys as industry leaders are looking at for the future. And I think it's sooner than we think. In broad terms, today we hear the word AI, and it's, from what I've heard, it's the biggest revolution since electricity, not internet. So that's a huge thing. And if you could kind of tie what we're doing in our industry to what's going on around us, it's very similar. So a lot of these equipment are smarter, are able to do more operational things without human intervention and with better accuracy. I think robots is just an example of something we could visually see, but I think behind the scenes, even some of the equipment that you could demo here at this show are smarter equipment. They no longer are just equipment that you need a mechanic to open a few pieces to tell you what's going on. The machine will tell you, and we've all experienced that, and maybe in our vehicles, but this is now part of our equipment fleet. So I think the trajectory of where technology is going is certainly there. It just comes down to how do you adopt it in the right way that makes operational sense, as well as checking off sustainability and all the other good things that it comes with. So we covered a lot. We're kind of nearing the end of our conversations, and if we have time, I'll open up to the floors in case there's any questions. But there's a few things that I made note of that maybe we didn't touch on, and we could have a short discussion on. So as a whole, what do you guys think of electric equipment in terms of, like, we didn't touch on maintenance, longevity? I know we kind of went there, but what's been your experience there? Because I'm careful to pose this question, because if you count the early generations, the data is skewed because the equipment was not where it needs to be, and so was the knowledge within the teams. Even the manufacturers and other support systems were not up to par. If you fast forward in the last couple of years, I think that has evolved. So if you could briefly touch on the operational logistics side, and that will go into maintenance, ease of use. We touched on culture here. I think that's been come up a couple of times, where it's actually helping with team and recruitment and new generation. So let's hear that. Let's see what's in the experience there.
I'm going to pass it to my friends on the panel, because we really have been only piloting the equipment for the last 3 years, and I'm anxious to hear what they have to say.
I agree with Ms. Sood. It's hard to speak frankly about maintenance at this point, because what we're seeing in the past 2 years is so different from what we were seeing before. I will just say that there's fewer parts to maintain, there's fewer components, there's less for a mechanic to have to do on these pieces of equipment.
Yeah, definitely on the maintenance side. My background before I started working for the NCC, I worked in the golf industry, and I had a full-time mechanic, and that mechanic spent every week, probably most days, working on cord trimmers and blowers. Always something wrong with them, couldn't get them started, kids flooding them, carb issues, always something going wrong on them. And that's a big change I've seen now. So I have a mechanic as well where I'm right now, but our electric trimmers, he never touches them, other than to change the string on them. You just slap the battery on there and you're good to go. I think we've just changed a couple triggers on them, and that's about it. Same thing with our blowers. He doesn't touch them anymore. So he's able to spend his time, and my mechanic can spend more time on other things than being tied up with those time-consuming products there. So that's a big thing. That's a big change for us. I do have I have some blowers. I have still handheld blowers I have from 2016. So that's not the case for all the equipment, but for some equipment it has last longer for me. Now their batteries have been changed out, but that blower is still used. A couple of them are still used to this day here.
Yeah, I would agree with everyone so far, but we're starting to see end of life cycle for our products that we bought in 2020, and as a result, we're now figuring out what budgeting and what life cycle expectations can be. However, at the same time, manufacturers are coming up with incredibly long warranties and opportunities that way that were not even available to us 3 years ago. So I think the manufacturers are more confident in their products as well now.
Right.
So it's lots to learn there. But the other side of it too is like fighting with a two-stroke weed trimmer, trying to get it to start, having it, having your oil mixtures too rich or too lean, and all the costs associated with that. We do really value what the electrics do for that side of our business.
I don't have much to add. I don't have my head in the shop. But at the same time, as I see things, posted or messaged to us about what goes in for service to our friends at Yarmond and what doesn't, it's always gas stuff that goes in. And at the moment, electric is very, very rare. So it either works or it doesn't, is my opinion. And if it doesn't work, try putting a new battery on it.
So just on that note, earlier when we were talking about robot mowers, I heard a lot of this from some of our panelists here. It's the same case when you look at the manufacturing distribution of electric stuff. Things are evolving. I mean, it's going to go that way. They have a lot less components, so there's not a lot of parts to sell and a lot of service to do. So there's always a positive and a negative depending on which side of the aisle you're in. But the one thing that's constant, in my opinion, is the change. I don't think any of us here could stop it. So we either figure out the best way to adopt and kind of go with it, or shake our heads and say this should stop now. That's why the whole, gas versus batteries become a battle. It should more be a conversation around, okay, well, how can we make this work properly? And some of the concerns we heard here, like I said in my introduction, this is real world stuff. I think, it's been 10 plus years for some of the panels here with experience firsthand, so it's valuable. So I won't blab on any further. I think we have a couple of minutes. I'm doing good with time. I keep track of time. That's good. Are you guys okay if we open it up for some questions from the floor, if there is any, and then we could go from there? Yes. Let me see how I can get a mic to you here, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for all your staff.
Just hold
and
it
all
a
your
bit
companies
closer.
Thank you very much to everybody in the panel for engaging in electricity, electric, and safeguarding all our environment. Appreciate it. Now, be the annoying engineer doing life cycle. What do we do with these batteries when they're done?
Yeah, all right. I'll give an answer the best I could. So that's actually a really good, that's a really good question. And I think it came up when we were discussing this panel before today, like with the panelists. From my understanding, and my colleagues here can correct me, is a lot of the major manufacturers have bought into a recycling program for the batteries, meaning it's built into the manufacturing of those batteries. So don't take my word for it. Check your battery. There's a symbol, like a recycle symbol with a 1-800 number that you can reach out to when it's end of life for your batteries. So it is paid forward, I guess.
It's
Where?
called a cycle.
Call to recycle?
Call to cycle, yeah.
Call-
And every steel dealer is part of that program too. So if you have battery life issues, you can bring them to the dealer, and we pay to have them properly recycled. So every battery from AK, AP, homeowner, commercial.
But it's a good question because we're early in the process, and although these lithium batteries are very durable, they last a long time, there will be a time where they need to be recycled. And I think from what I'm seeing, there's some forward thinking there where they have thought of, okay, let's pay the recycling fee now, so when the time comes, you just call the number or see the nearest facility or dealer and get those recycled the right way. Great question, though. I think that came up in our discussions too. All right. Any other questions from out here? We're good? You guys have any parting things we missed? Oh, we did a good job. I thank you all for coming. I would remind you that, in spirit of the conversation we just had, go ahead and test some of the equipment. The show, the Landscape Ontario, Ottawa chapter and organizers, and as well as all the participants and the manufacturers did a phenomenal job to set up hands-on demos here, which is nice to have because sometimes, reading something on a catalog or on a screen may not be the real thing. And ask the tough questions because that will make everything better, in my opinion. And follow up with further demos if you have to. But I think from the panelists to the questions and the queries we normally get, we're in the right track. We just have to go with the change. So I want to thank our panelists for taking the time. They have been phenomenal. When I first reached out to them, we had early on conversations. I got super excited because I was actually surprised how early some of these folks here have started their journey. So appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for joining us today. I know there's a lot going on weather-wise. So to make it here, Jessica actually came all the way from Montreal today. So it's very much appreciated. And once again, thank you for joining us today on this panel. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you. Great conversation. I hope I did okay, moderator. Thank you so much.